can't stop shaking. I'm sitting in my car, outside a funeral home, mascara dried into the corners of my eyes, stomach twisted into something that feels like grief and rage at the same time. I'm gripping the steering wheel like it can anchor me, but it can't. Nothing can. Because 15 minutes ago, I watched them lower the man I thought was my boyfriend into the ground. And then I found out he wasn't just mine. His wife, yes, wife, was the one sitting in the front row. Black veil, matching rings, a kid clutching her hand. And me? I was just some girl in the back pew who brought flowers and thought she had a right to cry. My name is Vanessa. I'm 32 years old. I work in digital marketing. I have a dog named Brisket, and until 3 days ago, I thought I had a boyfriend named Marcus. We were together for 8 months. I met his mom. He kept his toothbrush at my place. We planned a trip to Belize. So, you can see why I'm not okay right now? And before you come at me with, "Didn't you see the signs?" or "You should have known," just stop. Because I've been playing the whole damn thing on a loop since the service ended, trying to find the red flags I must have missed, trying to figure out what kind of idiot I must be to fall for a man who was living a double life. But the truth? There weren't signs. Or at least, not the ones you'd expect. He was attentive. Present. He called every night, texted me good morning, sent me links to memes about coffee addiction like it was some inside joke only we shared. He said he loved me first, not drunk, not pressured, just said it one night while we were brushing our teeth like it was the most natural thing in the world. And I said it back. I thought I knew him. And now I'm sitting here with the sickening realization that while I was planning our weekend getaways and baking his favorite dumb banana bread, he was going home to someone else, to them. And they were the real family, the real life, not me. I was the affair, and the funeral was where I found out. So no, this isn't just a breakup. This is a reality collapse. This is waking up to a version of your life that was never real to begin with. This is the story of how I found out I was the side chick at the man I love's funeral. I wasn't always this girl, the one crying in her car over a man who lied to her face for almost a year. I used to be the kind of woman who prided herself on having a good radar, gut instinct, emotional intelligence. I'd been burned before, but I thought I'd learned my lesson. Thought I'd gotten smarter, tougher, less naive. Before Marcus, I hadn't dated in almost 2 years. After my last relationship ended, mutual, civil, boring, I told myself I'd take a break, focus on me, build a life that felt full on its own. I signed a lease on a better apartment, got promoted to senior strategist. I even started doing pottery on the weekends, like some cliche woman in a rom-com who's rediscovering herself. It sounds ridiculous, but I was actually doing okay. Then Marcus walked in. We met at a wine tasting. He wasn't the type I usually went for. He was older by almost 10 years, reserved, a little too polished, but there was something grounding about him. He had that calm energy that makes you feel like nothing could touch you when you're near it. He asked thoughtful questions, remembered my dog's name, knew when to joke and when to just sit in silence with me. After a while, that silence started to feel like home. I didn't fall fast. I fell slowly, but deeply. He made me feel seen, not just complimented or flirted with, seen. Like he could name the parts of me I didn't even know I'd buried. The anxiety, the imposter syndrome, the way I'd sometimes double-check if I locked my front door twice because I couldn't shake the feeling that something might go wrong. He didn't flinch. He leaned in. And so I let my guard down, bit by bit, until I wasn't just letting him into my apartment, I was letting him into my future. I started picturing birthdays together, holidays, my dog curled up at his feet while we watched movies in sweats. It was slow and quiet and easy. Until now. Now every moment feels like a lie I willingly believed. Because here's the thing people don't get. Liars don't always act shady. Sometimes they're the best at showing up, looking you in the eye, and saying exactly what you need to hear. That was Marcus, and I trusted him with everything. So, yeah, when I say I didn't see it coming, I mean it. And maybe that makes me blind. Or maybe it just makes me human. The first weird thing should have been the work phone. Marcus always carried 2. He said one was personal, one was for work. Corporate security policies, he told me, the kind of thing where even texting memes to his work number would raise red flags with his company's compliance department. I bought it. It made sense. But there was this one time, maybe 3 months in, when he got a call while we were watching a movie. He glanced at it, muted it, and slipped into the bathroom. I could hear him whispering, like whispering. When he came back, he acted like nothing happened. And I let it slide. There was also his weekend custody agreement. He said he had a teenage daughter from a previous relationship. She lived with her mom, and weekends were his time with her. But he was still building trust, so he didn't want to introduce her to anyone yet. Again, I respected that. I didn't want to rush anything. But weekends were when he vanished, like clockwork. Every Friday night through Sunday afternoon, he was unreachable. He'd text occasionally, but no calls. And if I called, it went straight to voicemail. Once, I even joked, "You act like you're in witness protection every weekend?" He laughed, told me I was dramatic, said I'd understand when I was a parent. I let that go too. Then there was the photo. Just one. It showed up in a Facebook album posted by one of my friends who'd also been at the wine tasting where I met Marcus. The album had been tagged 6 months later. In it, Marcus is standing next to a woman I didn't recognize. Pretty, polished, same age range, and he's holding a little boy. They're not posing awkwardly like strangers. They look like a family. I brought it up. He brushed it off, said she was his cousin. The kid was her godson. I wasn't tagged in the album, so he assumed I'd never see it. Rookie mistake. But I didn't press him. I felt it in my gut, sure. But I pushed that feeling down. I didn't want to be that girl. The one who nags. The one who overreacts. So I let it slide. Again. And that's what gets me now. The number of tiny moments where my gut whispered and I shushed it. Because the red flags weren't red. They were beige, subtle, soft, deniable. He never yelled, never guilted me. He just managed the story. And I played along. Until the funeral ripped the mask off. Now I keep wondering, if I just looked a little closer, asked one more question, pushed a little harder, would I have known? Would I have saved myself from becoming the woman crying in the back pew while his real life sat front and center? Would I have walked away before it destroyed me? The funeral itself was a blur. I wore a navy dress. I didn't want to wear black because I thought, idiotically, that his wife would wear black. And I didn't want to seem like I was mimicking grief I wasn't entitled to. Turns out, I shouldn't have worried. Nobody even noticed I was there. When I walked in, I was late. Purposefully. I didn't want to sit up front. I figured I'd quietly find a seat in the back, pay my respects, and disappear. Closure, or something like it. But as I stepped into the chapel, I saw her. The woman in the front pew, a widow, perfect posture, black dress, veil, a little boy sitting next to her, fidgeting in his too-tight collar. She looked broken, shattered, and familiar. It took everything in me not to collapse right then and there, because I'd seen her before. Once, in that photo on Facebook, the one Marcus brushed off, his cousin. Except cousins don't wear matching wedding rings, and cousins don't bury their husbands. I sat down. I don't even remember where. I just remember my knees shaking, my palms sweating. I looked around. Nobody made eye contact. I was invisible. When they started the service, the eulogies rolled in like waves. Friends, co-workers, his sister, and then her. She stood up, took a deep breath, and said, "Marcus was my husband, my partner, the father of our son, and the love of my life." That's when the room spun. I clutched the edge of the pew, tried not to cry, tried not to scream, tried to breathe, because this wasn't a misunderstanding. This wasn't a miscommunication. This was betrayal, live and in surround sound. I listened as she talked about their wedding, their anniversary trip to Italy, the way Marcus tucked their son in at night and read the same bedtime story in that ridiculous cartoon voice he used. I wanted to vomit. That voice. I knew that voice. He used it on my dog. Same tone, same rhythm. I used to tease him about how animated he got over bedtime stories. And he used to say, "What can I say? I'm a hit with the kids." A hit with his kid. And me? I was the side story. When the slideshow started, I saw photos of them: beach vacations, birthdays, Christmas morning with matching pajamas. One image showed him holding their baby in the hospital. He looked proud, whole. He looked happy. I wanted to scream, but I didn't. I sat there, frozen. The worst part? Nobody knew who I was. I wasn't the woman crying because she lost a partner. I was the woman crying because she lost the illusion. And that kind of grief? It doesn't get sympathy. It gets shame and silence. I barely made it through the service. As soon as the final prayer ended, I slipped out before the crowd could rise. I didn't want to risk bumping into anyone who might recognize me, though clearly I was just a ghost in that room. But the moment I hit the parking lot, I broke. Right there between a minivan and a Camry, I crumbled. My legs gave out. I slid to the concrete. I cried in a way I didn't know adults could cry. No dignity, no breath control, just raw, guttural sobbing that shook my whole body. Because that's when it hit me fully. There was no recovering from this. No neat narrative to tell my friends later. No silver lining. Just the brutal realization that the man I thought I loved had compartmentalized his entire life. And I was in the drawer labeled secret. And the funeral? That wasn't closure. It was a curtain lift. And the truth had been sitting in the front row the entire time. Back at home, I couldn't even cry anymore. My tears had dried out. All I felt was numb, like my body had shut off every switch to protect me from completely disintegrating. I sat on the floor with Brisket curled up beside me, just staring at the wall, trying to convince myself it was all some mistake, that maybe it was a different Marcus, that maybe I'd hallucinated the whole damn thing. But the truth doesn't care about denial. The truth claws its way in. His toothbrush was still in my bathroom, his coat still on my hook, his coffee mug still in the sink, his shoes by the door, his playlist still queued on my Spotify. Evidence, proof, mockery. I stood up and started gathering it all. Not in a rage, not like some dramatic breakup montage you see in movies. Just quietly, clinically, like I was cleaning up after a stranger who died and left their mess behind. I put the toothbrush in a bag, folded the hoodie he left on the couch, took down the framed photo of us at that pumpkin patch last fall, the one where I thought we looked so happy. I placed everything in a box, sat down next to it, and just stared. How do you grieve someone who isn't even who you thought they were? Because that's the thing. Marcus didn't just die. He was never real to begin with. And now I was mourning a man and a mirage, and I had no idea which one hurt more. I didn't leave the house for 4 days. Didn't shower. Didn't eat anything that wasn't prepackaged or microwavable. Every time my phone buzzed, my chest tightened. It wasn't like I was expecting Marcus to text me. He was dead. But my body hadn't caught up. I was still wired to hope, to reach, to react. People think the pain comes from the love. But that's not it. The pain comes from the betrayal of belief, of self-delusion. I wasn't just grieving a man. I was grieving the version of me that thought I mattered to him. That believed she was safe, special. I started replaying everything. Every dinner, every laugh, every time he canceled plans last minute or turned his phone face down during conversations. They all suddenly had new meaning. And I hated that. I hated that the same memories that made me feel warm now felt like clues I was too blind to see. At one point, I opened Instagram and searched for his wife. Her profile was private, but her profile photo was enough to gut me. A family shot, the three of them grinning like they were the damn Christmas card of the year. I stared at her smile for 10 full minutes, wondering if she'd ever felt the shift, if she knew, if she chose not to know, or if Marcus was just that good at lying. I wanted to hate her, wanted to scream at her. You were his wife, you had the whole thing. But deep down, I knew she was probably just as blindsided, maybe more. She had a child, a mortgage, a decade of memories. I had brunch reservations and weekend bags. I was the footnote. And somehow, that made me feel even worse. I didn't talk to anyone, not even my best friend Talia, until she banged on my door with coffee and a box of tissues. She didn't ask questions, just sat on the couch with me while Brisket laid his head on her lap, and I tried to form sentences that didn't sound insane. The first thing I managed was, I don't know who I am right now. Because I didn't. I felt like a hollowed-out version of the woman I was before him. Like he'd scooped out all my confidence and left the shell behind. I questioned everything. My judgment, my worth, my ability to trust again. I felt like my body wasn't mine. Like it had been part of a story that didn't exist. Talia held my hand and said, "You are not what he did to you." I wanted to believe her, but I didn't. Not yet. Because when someone builds a life with you, texts you goodnight, makes playlists for your drives, tells your dog he missed them, it doesn't feel fake. It feels like something. And if that something wasn't real, then what is? My brain was fighting itself. One half screaming that I'd been a fool, the other still defending him, whispering maybe he loved me in his own way. It made me sick. I didn't just lose Marcus. I lost my own compass. I thought the worst part was over. I thought the funeral was the peak of my humiliation, that the quiet shame afterward would just taper off into numbness. But that's not how this works. Not with grief. Not with betrayal. It doesn't fade. It mutates. And it mutated hard the moment I got a message request. From her. His wife. Her name was Madison. At first I thought it was a scam. Some sick joke. But it was her profile. Same woman from the funeral, same black veil, same child in her arms. And the message? "Hi, I believe we need to talk. I know who you are. And I know what he did." My stomach dropped so fast I thought I was going to pass out. I didn't respond for hours. Just paced my apartment, rereading it over and over, convincing myself it couldn't be real. What did she know? How much did she know? Was this a trap? Was she going to blame me? I finally replied with 4 words. "Okay, when and where?" She suggested a coffee shop near her place. Somewhere public, neutral, but my hands wouldn't stop shaking the entire Uber ride over. My chest felt like it was about to explode. When I saw her in person, she didn't look like a woman out for blood. She looked tired, hollow, like someone who'd aged 10 years in 10 days. She wore no makeup, no wedding ring, just a hoodie and jeans, and when she saw me, she offered a nod. Not warm, not cold, just knowing. We sat in silence for a minute before she spoke. "You weren't the only one." And just like that, the world tilted again. Marcus didn't just have a wife and a girlfriend. He had others. There were more of us. Madison told me everything. How she'd found emails, photos, hidden credit card statements, dating app accounts under different names. I wasn't a one-time mistake. I was part of a pattern, a system. He'd lived parallel lives, curated and controlled down to the last detail. And here's the part that broke me all over again. She knew. Not everything, not about me specifically, but she'd suspected for years. Every business trip that didn't line up, every password suddenly changed, every subtle shift in routine. She confronted him more times than she could count. But she stayed. Because of their son, because of the mortgage, because she thought if she just loved him harder, better, more completely, he'd change. But he didn't. He just got smarter at hiding it. She looked me in the eye and said, "I'm not here to blame you. You're not the villain. You're another casualty." And then she did something I didn't expect. She reached across the table and held my hand. I broke. In the middle of a crowded coffee shop, I sobbed in the arms of the woman whose husband I'd loved without knowing. And she cried too. Not because of me, not because of him, but because this was the only funeral that really mattered. The one where we both buried the lies we lived in. That moment, that wrecked me. Because I realized something no one tells you about grief. It's not just about losing someone. It's about losing the version of yourself you built around them. And in that coffee shop, 2 women sat across from each other, grieving not a man, but the fantasy he sold both of us. That was the twist. It wasn't just that I was the side chick, it was that we both were. It's been 4 weeks since the funeral. 4 weeks since I found out I was the other woman at the service for a man I thought I might marry. 4 weeks since I met the wife he betrayed in parallel and cried with her in a coffee shop neither of us can walk past anymore. People keep asking me if I'm okay. I say yes, because that's what you're supposed to say. But the truth is, I don't know what okay looks like anymore. I'm not broken, but I'm not whole either. I'm something in between. Like the glue holding me together is still wet and could peel off at any moment. I've deleted every picture of Marcus from my phone, but I still find him in the muscle memory of my mornings. I'll pour 2 cups of coffee by accident. I'll start texting a meme and stop halfway. I'll walk by the banana bread in the grocery store and have to leave the aisle. Healing is not linear. It's not a glow-up montage. Some days I feel powerful, like I dodged a life built on lies. Other days I feel pathetic, like I wasn't even worth a confession. I wasn't the secret he felt guilty about. I was the secret he planned around. And that's what stings the most. Not the death, not even the deception, the intentionality. He compartmentalized me. Carefully, strategically. He built a love that felt real, just to sustain a double life. He remembered the details. My dog's name, my birthday, how I take my tea. Not because he loved me, but because he was good at this. And I hate that I still miss him sometimes. Not the man, the version I was handed. The curated boyfriend who kissed my forehead and sent Spotify playlists and remembered to say goodnight, even from work trips that were really family vacations. You can't just delete that kind of attention from your nervous system. So I journal, I walk, I take Brisket to the park and let him sniff every single tree just to feel like some things are still honest. I've learned that closure is fiction. There's no clean break, no final bow. Sometimes the apology never comes. Sometimes the person who wrecked you dies before they ever own it. And all you're left with is unanswered questions and the echo of their voice saying, "I love you," like it meant something. But here's what's real. I am not the affair. I am not the mistake. I am not the punchline to his secret life. I am the woman who survived it. I met someone in the ashes. Myself. And she's not soft. She's not clueless. She's not easy to fool. She is razor sharp now. She's harder, wiser. She asks better questions. She watches for silences that don't make sense. She listens when her gut speaks. And she knows one thing for sure. The next man doesn't get the benefit of the doubt. He earns trust slowly, day by day, step by step, because love isn't about grand gestures or smooth words. It's about consistency in the daylight. It's about accountability, integrity, transparency. Love without honesty is just performance. And I've seen enough of that to last a lifetime. So no, I won't say I'm grateful for what happened. That would be a lie. But I will say this. If being the side chick at Marcus's funeral is what it took to finally wake up and see myself clearly, then maybe that grief wasn't wasted after all. Maybe it burned away everything that wasn't real. And what's left now is mine. All mine.